I remember my first resume was like 10 pages long, and it had bio data on it, like, female, like, by, demographics, age, exactly, your ethnicity, where you're in this part of the world. Those are things that could be used to discriminate against you.
No judgment here, just a friendly ear. Tune in every day, bring your worries near. Life couch show, let the heartbeats flow. With Fady, we heal and grow. Life on the couch with Fady. Talk it all out, set your mind free. Life on the couch, stories we share. Fady.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Life Couch with Fady. Here we talk about things that happen to the everyday people, with the hope that someone out there can relate with what we're discussing, and it tells you that there's light at the end of the tunnel. You know that there's victory at the end of the day, even if you're struggling right now. Today, we have someone who's beautiful, someone who I look up to in the industry. We have a few things in common. We both sing, we both do human resources. There's lots to learn today. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy yourself. She'll be talking about her story. She'll be telling us about how she immigrated to Canada and how she has navigated life to be a successful human resources professional. And when I say successful, I mean, up there. All right, so I did some research, and I just wanted to find out how long on the average it takes to settle in Canada. And what I have here, it says it takes, it's different for different people, but on the average, there are different phases to settling. Initial adaptation takes about 6 months to 2 years, and we're talking learning to navigate daily life, transportation, healthcare, and co. And then the second phase is economic integration, which takes about 2 to 5 years. And that's finding stable employment in one's field, and that can take time. We know that, and the like. And the third phase is social integration, which usually takes about 5 to 10 years, is what they say. And it just means building strong social network, developing a sense of belonging, and engaging more deeply with Canadian society. The next phase is a cultural and emotional adjustment, which usually takes about 5 to 10 years. This could vary for, different people. It says that language proficiency, employment opportunities, community support, and ability to navigate the immigration system can influence how quickly you settle. So, but this is, just data on the average. Now, I will allow you to meet my guest, and then I will hand it over to you. Her name is Wura Odiase. I hope I pronounced that correctly.
You did.
Okay.
You did.
And then please introduce yourself to our guests, or to our audience.
Thank you very much, Fady, for having me join your life coach today.
Thank you for saying yes. We appreciate it.
So, as you introduced me, my name is Wura. I'm a woman of many parts. I like to describe myself as a heritage of God. So I'm first and foremost God's child, and that is what defines me. That is what grounds me. I am also a pastor's wife. I co-pastor the Redeemed Christian Church of God, Christ Embassy Parish, with my husband, and we're blessed with 3 children, Samuel, T, and Daniel. They're adults. They're not children anymore. And in my secular, I do have other roles, as I have multiple people that I mentor informally, people who I sponsor,
including me.
And so in addition to my religious service. And maybe if there's an opportunity, I'll talk a little bit about the significance of service and how that also forms a solid foundation for anyone. But in addition to that, in the secular human resources executive, I've been working in HR for over 25 years.
Wow.
And I'll get to talk a little bit about my journey there. And yeah, so that's my, in a nutshell, I believe I have a philosophy. I like to, say that my philosophy is that life is at its best when you find your purpose and when you meet challenges, because there will always be challenges on that journey of life. But when we are ready for the challenges, then it becomes like the how the eagle uses the storm to soar. And so when those challenges come, to be ready to use that as a catalyst for change and to soar and the will of God accomplished. And so that's my philosophy in life. I also just recently authored a book, and maybe I will make references to some of the lines in the book. So yeah, that's
nice.
In a nutshell. And in summary, I like to say that one of the things that I always reflect on in my decision, in my interaction with people, even in this moment, is that life will leave a legacy. Either the legacy is, that we're having positive impact on people, but we could also have negative impact on people. So that I am intentional about the type of impact and influence that I'm having on people is important to me.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
Very well said. Thank you so much. I don't even remember how I didn't even meet you in the HR. This was 2019 or something. I don't remember. Pastor D had referred me to you to sing at your church. And that's how we met, and believe me, she's doing great, great things. But I'll let you talk about the things that you've done. Okay. But we will start from the scratch. How was life in Nigeria? And what's the story of, deciding to come from Nigeria into to Canada?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I started my career with Total Energies. That's their new name now. It used to be called Total Exploration and Production. So it was at that time the fourth largest oil and gas. So I was very young when I started my career. I wanted to be a lawyer. And I remember I had started working as an admin executive at that time. And I remember having conversations with my coach. And I said, at that time, I had collected the form to register for law school. And so I remember my career coach saying, Wura, you're not a lawyer. And I was really disappointed because I really wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to wear the gown.
Wow.
I wanted to and so she said, you're an HR professional. Think about how in your role, you understand the collective agreement, you understand the articles of it, you interpret it in ways that people don't get to interpret it. You have good relationships with the union executives. And so she said, you're an HR professional. And so that's why I stayed on course. And fast forward, when I had the opportunity to do a jury duty, I wasn't selected, but I was screened for jury duty. And as I sat through the chambers, in that moment, I realized that I would not have enjoyed being a lawyer, a career in law. So, and I would say that God orchestrates our path and orders our steps. And
brings
so,
people to you.
Yeah, correct.
Sure.
So that's how I continued my career in Total, and then I was sent on expatriation to France. So I spent almost 3 years in France with my family. While we were in France, we applied for a permanent residency. We got it. And so then I went back at the end of my assignment with the family to Nigeria. And then we decided, because I was asking, what's the implication if we don't come? And it was that we would lose the opportunity. And so we reflected on it and we thought it was good for the children. And so we made that decision to take a bold step, great things. There's no good thing that does not require tough decision.
I know.
Because at that time I remember my families and my friends were like, are you really sure? Like, you have a really good job, you're settled, you have a home, you have like everything that you need. You're going to Canada, where you're going to start from the scratch. You're going to buy a house, maybe not immediately. You're going to, like, you will not have nannies. There is no driver. There's no luxury.
It's
those
all
luxuries
do it
that you
yourself.
have, exactly. And so it was a big change. It was a big step, but it was one that we were taking because we had prayed about it, and we know that, you know, Jeremiah 29:11 says that God has good plans for us, and the steps of the righteous are ordered. And so we were not going just on our own. We were going on the word of God, and we were confident that it was going to be a good journey.
Wow. Okay. I know you said that there's no good thing that doesn't involve a tough, maybe tough decision making or whatever. But did you experience any challenges with migrating here, or was it all smooth?
I wish it was. And I want to caveat that everybody's story is going to be different. And, you know, while some people, you know, come in and things are relatively easy for them, there are people who had a really tough time and just decided to go back, and because they just could not settle. And so for me, my journey, I remember when I was coming, you know, I had said, I had 2 master's degree in HR. I had worked internationally. And I was like, you know, once I come, the job is just going to be coming from left, right, and center. It wasn't like that. It did not turn out to be that.
Right.
I was introduced to the vice president of the organization the subsidiary that I had worked with. And so the VP introduced me to the manager in their office, who invited me to come over to her office for a meet and greet, because they had an entry-level HR role. So I thought to myself, it's okay to start, you know, at the entry level. You get to know the organization, you get to know people, and then they see your skill set, and then you can move up the rank. And I remember entering into this lady's office, and the expression on her face kind of showed a little bit of disappointment. I wasn't sure whether the disappointment was like, maybe my outlook did not match the resume that was in front of her, but I was not moved by that. And so she said to me, well, I've looked at your resume. You don't have Canadian experience. And as a result, I would advise you to go and volunteer. So I thanked her. Was I disappointed? I was, because I thought, you mean I don't qualify for an entry level for this subsidiary office when I worked in your head office in France and in the largest subsidiary in Africa? Like, but anyways, I left. I think I was disappointed for like 10 minutes. And afterwards I said,
good time.
Yeah. And I was like, you know, I move on from it. And I didn't let that discourage me, but I just continued my journey of making sure that I stayed on course with what I wanted to do. I wanted to add that there were many times where there were other opportunities that came my way that were non-HR. I remember there was a bank that offered me, and it was a relative, at that time, 2010, this was 2010, you know, the bank offered me a relatively good job. But I knew that the moment I moved away from my field of profession, it was going to be really difficult for me to get back on course. And so I declined, despite the fact that I didn't have a job at that time. And then if there's opportunity, I will talk about how I got my first HR job, which was also divine.
So what I'm going to do now is I'll give you the free way or whatever. You just tell us your story. Everything, and then I'll ask questions.
All right. Okay. So thank you very much. Continuing from there, so I got the bank opportunity. I declined it. They had hunted me, and then thereafter, I signed up for an agency job agency, and then I got a call to meet someone in Weatherford, Canada Partnership. And so again, oil and gas. So I thought, I can stay on there. And so I got there. I had, I was all suited up. I had my folder and I was ready for this interview. I had prepared targeted selection. Mind you, when people come to Canada, it's important that there are some foundational things you need to make sure that I remember my first resume was like 10 pages long, and it had bio data on it, like, female, like by, demographics, age, exactly, your ethnicity, where you're from in this part of the world. Those are things that could be used to discriminate against you. So nobody cares about, or any of those things. And so we had gone to Center for Newcomers. We had done some training. We had worked on our resumes. We had practiced behavioral interview, which is not something that we had done before. We didn't know how to do that. And so we were kind of somewhat ready. Like I said, preparing is really critical. And so when this opportunity came, I was ready for the interview. And I remember sitting down in this, room, and the lady said, "Hey, tell me about yourself. We had looked at your resume. We're super impressed." And, I just, told her a little bit about my background. And the next question is, when do you want to start? And I'm going in my mind, you mean
Just
there's
like
no
that?
interview? No interview. And that was my first
For reals?
HR job.
Wow.
Yeah. So zero interview.
Wow.
And I have to say that has kind of been the story of my life.
That's
in
grace.
many, many occasions. Yeah. Grace and favor, sets me apart. There has been many instances where I got appointed into roles. And so I think I have a grace for that, like you said.
I receive it.
Yes.
Tapping from that grace today.
And I just want to say that, for anyone who is a child of God, that grace and favor is available, where you will just stand out. You will be distinguished. Sometimes it's not because you're skilled. It's not because you have it all complete, but because if God is for you, everything works out for you. Yeah. So, I stayed on course. Then I started preparing for my professional designation.
Okay.
So one of the things I have to say, one of my very good friend, Yewande Atunramo, well known in the community, we've been friends for more than 30 years now.
Wow.
And so she came here before me, and so she was advising me, she was guiding me. When you're coming, don't go and rent a gigantic house, because Nigerians, when you come, you'll be like, the standards. I have another story if there's time about our experience in France. So you want the standard of house that you're living in Nigeria, you want to replicate it here, but we know how when you're just starting, it's not wisdom. So we had Mrs. Aturamo, who was Yewande, who was our guide, who was helping. And one of the things she said is, prepare for your professional exam. So I started preparing. So started studying. It was easy to pass the knowledge exam, which is just like you read. But when it came to the application, the MPPA, I can't remember what it's called now. At that time, they no longer have that exam.
Okay.
I failed this exam.
Wow.
I failed it because I was using the Nigerian mindsets that you read the scenario. It's a scenario-based exam. When you read the scenario, you'll be like, if somebody did that, it is termination. You fire them. The idea of coaching
I know.
was not a concept, at that time. So anyway, it was when I failed the exam, I failed it twice actually, that I met my first mentor, Todd Bassett. And it was from there that, I started, he was coaching me and mentoring me and helping me to shift my mindset about how to think differently, how to act differently. So there was a lot of adjusting, adapting to understand the Canadian workplace culture. And then I passed the exam. And eventually, and that's how my journey continued. And then there was an opportunity to work for the government. I was happy where I was. But again, when you have a coach who is helping you to think bigger, to say, hey, don't stay where you are. You have a lot to offer. And I didn't see myself, not as if I had self-esteem issues, but I was just content with where I was, especially if you're happy in your workplace. I don't want to move because of the unknown, but my coach encouraged me to move, and I did. And I am grateful for that decision that, helped me to take that next step.
And okay.
And so again, my journey continued. when they tell you about understanding the workplace culture is very important. And so I started learning that the culture in Canada was different. So when I walked in France, it was my first awareness that, there are many cultural differences. And until you step out from your country or your home country or the environment where you are, you may not realize how different people are. And so when I was in France, in the Nigerian culture, when you see your colleague the next day, you'll be like, hey, Faye, good morning. How was your night? And that was a question that always shocked my French colleague. It's like,
why are you asking
why are you asking about my night? Or when we see ourselves 10 times, it's like, hey, hello, how are you? How's it? But over there, like once you say bonjour, that's it for the day. Like, and so I was learning how cultures are different. So that was my first experience. So when I came to Canada, I had, moments of, like you can't. I come from Nigeria, which is a direct culture. We speak our mind. We say things as we feel. This is Canada is not a type of environment where you can actually, be direct that way because it will have impact on people. It will have impact on the relationship. And I have stories that I can share of that. But I had to learn. I had to adapt. And I remember doing this 360 assessment at the beginning of my career in the government job I was working. And so when the results of the 360 came out and I was reading it, I was really pleased with myself. I was like, yeah, I'm a superstar. Yeah. And then I was like, what are they saying about my communication? And then they started talking about how, I talk fast and sometimes they don't know what I'm saying and model things up. And so I think I was sad for 5 seconds. And then I called one of my colleagues and I said, I need you to give me honest, constructive feedback. This is what my 360 says about my communication. And she said, yeah, Wura, that's true. When you're nervous, and she gave me feedback. And so from that moment, from that time, and this was, I think, early 2013, 2013, I've been having personal development plans where I invest in myself, invest in an aspect of my growth. Because again, here, it's not your technical skills that your employer is interested in.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, it is 2080. The 20 is the technical skill, the 80 is your soft skills. So you need to have solid soft skills to grow on your career journey. So I did, a personal development on, how to public speaking and how to improve myself. And it was tough. Like I said earlier, like the first task I put up my hand for was to do a presentation for over 1,000 people.
Wow.
So, and different audience.
And that's pushing yourself.
It really was. And I'm really glad that I took on that task because at first it was uncomfortable. There's no growth without stepping out of your comfort zone. And so I stepped out completely out of my comfort zone.
Wow.
It was rough. The first session I had was not smooth, but the more I did it, the better I was. Today, I can speak to any group of people. I may be a little nervous, but I think I overcame a lot of those nervousness that I had on my career journey. So again, having personal development plan, having people who are allies, and then, investing myself in growth, learning my field. I wanted to be a master in my field. I wanted to be a solid expert in my field. I did not want to be a mediocre by any means. I would say to my children that you can't be average because already there's potential for discrimination because of your race. And so what can help you to stand out tall is when you are the master of your game. And so I took time to really differentiate myself in my field of profession and to make sure that I was on top of my game. And so that's been my journey. I became really innovative. So I did things that were different. Again, with guidance, because I remember I had a body who would say, oh, if you do that, you're going to set precedent. So again, really grateful for Dennis Anderson, who guided me through and made sure that I didn't trip and I didn't make mistakes on my career journey.
Okay, at this point, there are just a few things I've heard from you. I just want to highlight for people out there. You spoke about 2 times you got disappointed, or, and you didn't stay there.
Yeah.
You said 10 seconds or 5 minutes. So I love that. Some people, including me, I might have done it as well. You stay there and then you wallow in self-pity. Yeah, well, human beings, you have feelings.
Yeah.
Yes, feel bad. But then what do I do?
Correct.
Like the second one you spoke about, you called get okay, give me feedback.
Yeah.
And you're ready to listen. The feedback is good if you can be able to receive feedback.
Correct.
It's important,
Yeah.
right? If you can't get anyone, because here, like you said, they don't tell you. Some might say, good job. But if you can get somebody that will give you the truth,
Yeah.
and then what do I do with it?
Correct.
You set a plan, development plan. How do I get better? And then you pushed yourself. You took a step.
Yeah.
Decided to speak to 1,000 people. I can imagine how that would have started. But then at the end of the day, something else you said is you still get nervous. It's not like you don't, but you know how to manage it. So it's okay to be nervous is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But then how do you manage it is important. And then you learn by experience.
Yeah.
It's okay that you're not there today. With time, with practice, when you plan, you will be there. I just thought I would, highlight some of these things for the audience. Now, just quickly, can you just tell us how you progress? I know you work with, do you want me to mention your employer?
You can.
You work with the City of Calgary.
Yes.
By the way, I work with the City of Calgary as well. Can you just briefly tell us how you moved up?
All right. So I just want to make two comments about what you said earlier.
Okay.
Feedback is a gift. Always, if you're one that always feels like people are giving you feedback and you take it as criticism, you will never grow. You will never move forward.
True.
And people will stop talking to you. But when you embrace feedback to say, hey, what is it? What's the gold? What's the diamond in this rock that may look at? Then it becomes something that is invaluable. The other thing that I learned about nervousness, there was a video I watched in part of my personal development that talked about how you can actually take your stress and channel it as a power. It was a powerful video. And so anytime I'm nervous, I reach into that nervousness and then I use it to project. And there's something that does. I can't explain what it is. Physiologically, you will find strength and power when you reach into that nervousness and use it and project with it.
Okay.
So going back to my journey. So I told you how I always have a mentor, always have somebody who I rely on and guide on. And so in my role as an HR professional, and you will know this as an HR business partner, there are 2 ways that you can actually take your job. You can take your job from a place of a strategic lens, which is big picture, like what's happening external to your organization, what's happening to your client group, and then you developing a strategy to help them on that journey. Or you can just come into the role and do day to day, like just, okay, firefighting, like, okay, investigation, like, and that could be your channel of your career. But if you really want to add value and have impact, you've got to look at your job from a strategic lens. And so that was the approach that I took with my job to say, hey, how can I support my clients? And again, my goal in on my journey is I want my client to be successful all the time. So that is one of the things that drives me. And that's where my own success is when they can tell their story of how they are making a difference, how their leadership is inspirational and impacting. And so I always develop 4-year plan for my client.
Wow.
Yeah, 4-year strategic plan that is evidence-based, based on data, based on, and then I track. And so I create a culture of accountability. If you look at my book, Lead with Ease, you will see, if you're an HR professional, it just highlights, that book is my journey, my learning, all of the tips and tricks
is
that
it on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon.
Okay, we can add the link so people have access to it.
All right. Yeah, thank you. So that's how I, when I talk about building a culture of accountability, tracking my results. When you have a brand that is based like that, there's no way that the impact of your work will not trickle. And so that was how, and then at the City of Calgary. Yay, shout outs. They got the Employer of Choice Award. You have multiple ways. So they move you around from time to time. Yeah. So I had changed client a few times, which allowed me to also learn the organization, get to know people. And so an opportunity came up and I was appointed for that opportunity.
Oh, nice.
And you know what? People will talk when you're, again, but your work will speak for you. So from being I have to tell you the story of how I went into leadership before the appointment. So grounded myself as an HR business partner, and I think I did pretty well. Okay. And then an opportunity for leadership came up. And I'm going to mention his name. Jeff Bell was my leader. And I remember him asking me, where have you applied for that leader role? And I said, no. And he said, why? And this was 2 days before the competition closing. And I said, no, I really enjoyed my role as an HR business partner. I'm going to miss that relationship, which is big deal for me. And then he lectured me for 1 hour. And so after he lectured me, I applied for the role. I was not successful, but at least my putting my interests showed that I really wanted it. And then after that interview, this is something I encourage people to do. I asked for feedback from, the hiring manager, and she gave me feedback in just a few places where she felt like, okay, maybe you need to, smoothen your responses. And so when the next opportunity came, I applied and I got the job. And that was my first rodeo in leadership. Again, I took that same learning, my same, experience about making sure my work is from a strategic lens, it's having an impact, and I'm able to see evidence and results of progress. And that's how I continued on my journey. And then the opportunity for the employee experience role came. I was appointed into the role. Nice. I think I did pretty well. I led my team to the very first HR award that HR, yeah, absolutely. We did a lot of great things around creating an equitable organization. And that's been my trajectory of my career. But it's a lot of, grounding, making sure that, the quality of my work is having an impact.
Oh my, I have heard a few things here that I'm going to adopt. And anyways, we'll take that off camera. But so can you tell us about one time that was really challenging? So the most challenging while you were at the City of Calgary.
Okay, thank you very much. So I like to share the story. There were a couple of challenges, but one that always comes to mind, which was, again, learning opportunity for me. So I had a client that time, earlier in my career, and, I'm by the book. And so, this client reaches out to say, hey, I want to hire someone, They didn't meet the minimum qualification for the job, and it's a union position. And as you know, with unions, you have expectations that, this job must meet minimum qualification. So number one, that person didn't meet minimum. Number two, they now wanted to give this person 5% increase more outside the collective agreement. And so when I became aware of this, I said, so I had a conversation with him. I said,
why?
You cannot, like I said, you cannot, because this is collective agreement. You can't hire this person. Like, you can't even give them 5%. And they said, well, we already told them that they're the successful candidates. So I said, so in that case, but you can't give them 5% extra. At this time, all my justice and fairness was already rising up. So I sent them an email to say, hey, just let it be on record that this is what I said to them. So fast forward, they heard me, but they decided to proceed anyways. And so the system would not accept. They were not able to key it into the system because, again, it was outside the collective agreement. And so it came back to me that they were trying to do that. And, in my very Nigerian format,
I told you so.
I was like, and so we had the opportunity to sit down with senior leadership and talk about what had just happened. And I was really very, like you can think about in the Nigerian direct way. I didn't have political acumen at that time. And so I said, I told you on this day, this time, that you should not do that, but you did it. And that, in that moment, my action impacted the relationship that I had with this client significantly.
Wow.
And at the twinkle of an eye, I realized what had just happened. Number one, I spoke out from a place of emotion. And like my favorite person, John Maxwell, would say, when you're emotionally charged, your prefrontal cortex is hijacked. You can't make good decisions. And so I should have not maybe spoken at that time when I realized I was emotionally hijacked. But I spoke, and it was harsh. It was respectful because it was the fact, but it had a huge negative impact. And so after the fact, I reached out to my client. I apologized to her. It took a little while for us to rebuild, just as you know, when things break.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it's a good news story at the end, because we rebuilt when she was retiring. I was the only person that she said she wanted to go out for lunch with. And so it really ended well, but I had to go over and above to rebuild that relationship that I would not have broken in the. So political acumen is a big soft skill that a lot of people who immigrate to Canada do not possess. So invest.
And it's not only HR, generally.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Generally.
And emotional intelligence. Yeah.
It's really important, I see. So what advice do you have for immigrants? They may feel disconnected from their purpose or unsure of how to move forward when they are here, because it's a new environment.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a while to even know what you want to do. For me, when I was new, when I came in, I didn't even know where I fit. I didn't understand the advisor, business partner, It took a while. I had a mentor at the time who guided me, but I know how confusing it was. Yeah. So what advice would you give new immigrants here in Canada? So
first and foremost is your community. So that research you were saying earlier, you absolutely need a community as you come in. A community could be your country, or just a group of people from church. It could be like you just need a community support when you come in. Yes, that will help you settle down very quickly. I highly recommend that they go to places like Center for Newcomers, where people will help them, review resumes, prep them, help them understand Canadian workplace culture. I also advise that they go to places like Calgary Region Immigrant Employment Council, CRIEC. I'm on that board. You get a mentor if you're professional.
That's where I got a mentor when I came.
Yes, you absolutely need to have a mentor to guide you so that you can know what you need to have as a professional. One of the things that set people back is when they come, they're not speaking to the right set of people. They're hearing negative stories, gloom and doom, and then they divert. So it's important that you're speaking to people who have succeeded in that field of profession that you want to be, and then you can learn from them. What do I need? What do I need to be successful in this field of profession? And then they can, show you the way. You will have disappointments on your journey. Don't be discouraged. You get up and keep moving. Like Joseph had a vision of that God had given him. But on the journey, there were many disappointments, many failures, many betrayals. Just keep going. Exactly. Just keep your eye on that mark and keep going on. Keep growing. Like if you don't grow, you will outlive the environment where you're in. And then other people with fresh perspective will come in and they will take over. When you get into a place, have your 90-day plan activated so that you are not, you're adding
when
value.
You get a new job.
Once you get a new job, and stay on course. Like ask yourself, what career do I want to do? What am I passionate about? Not just what people are saying. This is the in thing, right? What's your interest? What's your passion? Yeah. And what's that long-term vision? And once you get in, keep your eye on how do I continue to grow because, it is that continuous growth. We're in that era of AI. How is AI influencing? I also lecture. I'm also a lecturer, a sessional lecturer in Ambrose University, and I brought in a guest to speak to my team about how AI is shaping HR and how it's important for us to be ready and to be aligned. Otherwise, again, technology will catch up on us, and we don't want to be behind.
Yeah.
So, grow yourself, develop your soft skills. It is so
Important.
Even when new immigrants get jobs, and I'm not generalizing, you could be internationally trained professionals.
Yeah.
When they get jobs, sometimes it is the lack of soft skills that, results in them losing their job. So really invest in those soft skills. Like I cannot overemphasize it. Have a mentor, have an ally in the organization that you're working in.
I remember when I came in as well, somebody checked my resume and told me, I think I had used some words. They were like big grammar, and the person was like, you use simple words. Like it looks too, the person made me feel bad. But understanding that, like you said, feedback is just, it may hit you, but what do you do about it?
Correct.
And then if it's somebody that you trust, otherwise, why would you go to them for feedback, right?
Yeah.
You need to make changes, work on whatever, even if it doesn't, not everything will make your ego swell. Work on it. It doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's been so good talking to you. But I do have a few questions for you because you've been here for how long now?
2010, so 15 years coming up. 15 years.
Wow, that's such a long time.
It's been a
I just
journey.
have a few questions for you.
Okay.
And you must get them because you've been here 15 years.
Okay.
What are the 3 top staples in Canada?
We have maple. We have what's that? Poutine.
One more, if you get this.
Angus burger. Well, wait. What's the other staple that we have?
What I have here, it says butter tarts. I don't even know what that
Food
is.
tarts.
I don't even know what it is. But that's what it says.
I'll take it.
Top 3.
Okay.
Okay, another top 3. What are top 3 slangs?
Hey. Hey, are you Canadian? Hey.
Okay.
What else is a slang here?
Well, I don't know why they say this is a slang, but they say toque. Like if it refers to the winter hats that you wear on, they say it's a slang. I thought it was the name, but that's okay.
That's
and then the do you know any other one? Anyway, this one says loony.
Oh, loony. Yeah.
Slang
Looney
for the
Tooney.
Canadian
Okay.
$1 coin.
Yeah, I can see
All right. So, what are the top 3 things Canadians are known for?
They're very pleasant.
You know what? You just got all the number ones here. Okay.
Canadians are very pleasant people.
Okay.
Canadians, I think, as we know, even with all the news in the media, like they're resilient people, and they like their sports, hockey.
That's on here.
They like hockey, and
right.
and they endure the snow.
Oh my God. We have a fire star here. 3 out of 5. There are 2 more. You have mentioned one today.
Okay.
You mentioned one somewhere else.
Canadians are diplomatic.
Okay.
Well,
I'll put that under politeness and courtesy.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they're not harsh or direct.
Okay.
Okay, it says natural beauty. I don't know if you would ever get that one, but it says Canada is known for its breathtaking landscapes, including vast forests, mountains, etc.
Oh, yes.
And it also says maple syrup. I think you had
mentioned
maple syrup.
Yeah.
Canada is the world's largest producer of maple syrup,
correct,
which is made from sap of maple trees.
Yeah.
And
on the mountains, for sure. Yeah, that's a big one.
I don't know if this will be okay. Let me just say, what are the 3 top cultural things in Canada?
Top 3 cultural things. The sports, I think the sports.
Oh my God, you're on fire. All right, any other thing?
The indigenous culture.
Oh my God, did you read this?
No.
Okay, one more thing.
Yeah, the indigenous
and
culture.
I was thinking I didn't put the question right. Okay.
No,
and then one more thing.
I think you did. And the politics is a big part here.
Okay.
One more thing. Let me think about.
Something that everybody knows about Canada.
I've talked about the sport. I've talked about indigenous and our flag. And
one more try.
Culture.
He actually
Give me a clue. Give me a clue.
He has culture in it.
It has culture.
Multiculturalism.
We're very it's the very diverse. And Calgary, I have to say, is the third most diverse city in North
Canada.
In Canada.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Yeah, no,
all
you're
right.
absolutely
I think
right.
you did fantastic.
Thank you.
Some of these things, maybe, I don't know if I would, but you did so well. Thank
you.
Thank you
very
so much. It's been, so one last thing. What do you do? Where are you at right now? Because we have heard your story.
Yes.
So what do you do right now? What levels are you at right now?
Okay, so I am laying the foundation for my retirement. I'm not retiring now.
Okay.
I'm still hoping to work for another 8 years.
Okay.
And but I'm laying foundations for my retirement. I have just gotten my certification as a chartered director for boards.
Nice.
I am on 2 boards right now.
Wow.
I have written 1 book and I'm going to start writing another book. Again, my book is really learnings, journeys that people can just don't make the same mistakes I make and just use the same templates and modify it, make it
I
your
need to
own.
get that book.
Yeah, yes. And so and that's pretty much, I'm thinking whether I should do mediation. Again, I'm looking future, long term. When I retire, what do I want to be doing part-time? So that's where I am in terms of my career. But also, one of the things that has been big on my mind is investing in the youth. So I'm going to be spending some time. I'm planning to have like a leadership conference for youths, where I'll bring them. They would learn from the creme de la creme, the leaders in the industry, different industries. So it's one vision that I have, and I'm looking forward to that as well. So again, life of service and significance, living that legacy so that we pass the baton to the next generation and they can run with it and be better than us. So that's my goal. And lastly is, one of the things that is a big deal for me is a just and inclusive a city where people like me can come and thrive.
Yeah.
And people like me can rise up to any position that they desire without any barriers in their way. So this is my vision. This is my hope. Anywhere I find myself, intentionally trying to remove those barriers. And so if I can achieve that on my career journey, I think I would have accomplished something really significant for not just this generation, but for the generation that is coming behind us.
And I must say, she didn't mention this. I really wanted her to mention it. She's currently the director of people and culture with the Calgary Police Service. I really wanted you to say that. No, a little wonder that's what you do right now, because your passion, it just seeps through, and it will. I think when you have a passion, you make it drive you. You will find yourself doing what you love.
Absolutely.
Right? I am just going to snitch a little bit. I met somebody who worked with you, and the person was like, she loves to work, she's so hardworking. I'm like, we see it, right? There's evidence for it. But I just want to say thank you so much for coming. We do not take your time for granted. I really appreciate it, and I hope that people out there, you've been able to pick 1 or 2 things. You see a person who's successful, you never know the kind of work that they have put into it. A lot of times it's being intentional. Working with, like you said, the storms that you have, you use that to soar, to rise or climb or whatever. And that's one thing we would like for you to take away today. And I hope that you have enjoyed listening to my guests today. And until another time on the set of Life Couch with Fady, we say bye. Like, subscribe, share, add a comment.